What's up, guys? So here is a quick video to kind of tell you about how to choose or decide or try out the weight, the amount of weight with the kind of resistance band, the kind of progression of the exercise that you need and that you are at. So many people ask me, okay, what weight do I use? Like, how much weight do I use? This is not something that a personal trainer, a coach, or someone else can tell you. You can only try yourself and see where you're at. So if I tell you, for example, okay, try to do 3 sets and do between 8 to 12 reps, all right? Kind of standard bodybuilding toning, kind of rep range and sets. So what you should do is just like try out, see based on what you have and how much experience, if you know yourself or not. Just try out, let's say you're a total beginner, you never did a bench press, I tell you 3 sets, 8 to 12, then you just like take 6 kilos, you go on a bench or at home on the floor, whatever you are, whatever the exercise is, you try 6 kilos, you see, all right, I can take 15 repetitions and good technique. I learned that, it's fine. Then of course you need to increase weight because there's still too many compared to 8 to 12. So you try again, maybe you go to 8 kilos this time and you see, all right, now I can take 14 or something, 13, 14. All right, it means it's still very, very like light for you. So you try with 10. And here, of course, you're also a little bit tired. So taking into consideration, if you've been trying some things, of course, you get more and more tired. But let's say you take 10 kilos and you actually can do 12. So this is approximately how much you need, right? So when you see, okay, 10, I can take the max amount of the rep range repetitions, then you can decide, okay, I can actually go up to maybe 12 or 14 at this point, and probably you're gonna hit the 8, the low rep range value, right? So you try it out and you see, all right, actually with 14, I get 8, and maybe the time after you get 10. So this is how you find out, basically. You just try. The same with resistance bands. If you have a very thin one, let's say that you have this one, it's very, very thin, you can do, let's say you do like presses like this, and with this you can do like 50, then of course it's very, very thin. It's not enough. It's too light for you. Then switch to a medium one or a heavy one and see how many reps you can get out of your program. All right, how to get stronger and what to do, when to change things, when to stop. These are also questions that you need to consider. So if, for example, I always, like as a rule of thumb, always think that you should be able to finish a set unless it's written that it's go to failure set, which means you go to as much as you can until you die and you cannot lift anymore or push anymore or pull anymore. Then always remember that you should always have like 1 to 2 repetitions in the tank. So when you feel, okay, I can maybe do 1 or 2 more, then I completed that, then I cannot lift this weight anymore, then you stop your set, okay? So this is the way you kind of have to think about. And of course, you cannot know every time, and sometimes you need to push yourself. Maybe you kind of realize, okay, maybe I had 3 or 4, or maybe you can try and push yourself from time to time and see if you actually can more than you try out before. But these are exceptions. So as a rule of thumb, always think, do I have 1 or 2 more in my tank that afterwards I kind of like cannot do it anymore? That's where you stop your set. And you write it down, of course, to track it so you know what you did. And next time you try either increase your weight, so you've just been doing the 8 repetitions with 14, the time after you can actually do 10, the time after you still 10, the time after maybe you get 11 or 12, then it's time to go up. So you try, for example, to go to 16 kilos and see if you hit those 8. Maybe you hit 6, it's okay. Now you know that maybe it should have been 15, or maybe you should like give it some more time and just like push through to get to that 16, right? But this is kind of the thoughts that need to go around in your mind when you decide what weight and stuff like that. It's also important that you consider that you need to play with weights, play with variations, play with resistance bands, play with like reps and sets and all that, because you need to push yourself. You don't know your limits, and this is what is cool about weightlifting and strength training. You kind of have to try out and see, what can I do today? What can I do this week? Can I do more? Maybe you can't. it's fine, you go next week, or maybe you actually can and you have a personal record. So what you do is basically just, for example, if you have 3 sets, you can either start having some warm-up sets and then start the heaviest you can. The first set, like go the heaviest you can or the heaviest you think you can, based on what I just said. And then like do the other set maybe with the same weight, or you can just go a little bit lower. And then the third set with the same weight, or you can go a little bit lower, right? And hit between those 8 and 12, for example. So let's say that you do the first set, all right? You take 16 kilos, 8 repetitions. The second set, you can do 14 kilos and maybe you hit 9 or 10. The third set, you can still do 14 and take maybe 8, or you can make sure that you're not too tired, so you take 12 kilos maybe and go for example, 10 or 12. The other way around you can also do, so you start doing the first set with 12 kilos and you take 10 to 12, and then you go to 14, you take maybe like 8 or let's say 10, and then you go down, like you go up still the third set to 16, and you take maybe only 8 or 6, but you kind of get the maximum with the last set. Personally, I prefer the first way, so I kind of take some warm-up sets that are like maybe 40%. One is just a movement, so with very low weights or just a bar or just like a push-up. And then afterwards I take like 40% of what I know is kind of my maximum. Like let's say that if your maximum is 16, I would take maybe 1 or 2 sets with 12 just to kind of warm up, feel the movement, and then I start working with the high heavy set, all right? So like working sets. So what you have in the program written down, it's your actual working sets. The sets where you go all in, where you're very focused, is not included some warm-up sets. That I would do if you work out with weights. I would always do some 1 or 2 warm-up set, at least for the first and the second exercise, if they're not working the same muscle and if they're kind of big lifts, right? Which they usually are. So this is kind of the way that you have to think when you train with weights, or you can apply the same principle with the rubber bands, resistance bands, and of course also with variations. If you have a push-up that is inclined, because you cannot do all sets and reps just doing a normal push-ups, then it's the same. You try it out, maybe you can only take a few with normal push-ups, but then it's too tough, so just go on an elevated surface and then kind of play with the elevation and do your sets with like less or more elevation according to how you feel. Important thing is always track everything, write it down, because next time you do the workout, it has to be better, or at least you have to try to make it better, all right? Hope this helps. If you have any questions, comment down below or write in the group or write directly to me, and I'll do my best to help you, of course.